come here on this evening as the sun is going down for this time of reflection, the more somber reflection on the holidays, a time to recognize the feelings that may be arising that don't quite fit the way in which the radio may be blaring the upbeat tunes of Christmas. This is a time in which those of you who are watching online, those of you who are here in this room, have the complete freedom and absolute support of one another. Pass the tissues, to cry, to do so silently or out loud. This is a time in which we embrace the realities of our feelings coming into this time and moment. I know those of you who were here earlier know that pens and pencils and pieces of paper were handed out. We will gather all of these, and if you hadn't filled one out yet, please fill one out now, so that later in the service, when it's time for our lighting of candles and then incorporating them into the prayers, much as we do on a Sunday morning for joys and sorrows, we'll have voice to those things that you would hope to fit into this moment. I thank John for, once again, being at the piano for this service. The way he adds his touch to this is deeply appreciated. We have some recorded music from Janice Cannon as well. And this year, for a very special treat, Tara McDonald has a solo to bring to us that by tone and all just fit so perfectly into tonight's proceedings. Thank you to all of our musicians. Start out with a slide, some music from John.
For our chalice lighting, we have words of Greg Ward to carry the light forward. If we are lucky, we will all get the chance during our life to know someone who becomes for us an exemplar of living. And if we are really lucky, we will recognize how they ended up passing on some of their goodness to us, if we're lucky. But one thing is certain, no one, not one of us, entering this world can escape the cost of living. The price we pay is, to live in this world, we must accept that someday we will die. To love what is alive, we must accept having to lose what we made precious through our care. To be fully and fiercely human, we must accept having the breakable and the sometimes broken. When we stop to notice how their life gave us a path and a little light to see by, it helps encourage us to help carry that light forward, though each of us comes forth in this. We come forth in this world a small flame. We know that the ability of that light to brighten the world depends upon the life and living of those who grieve. I invite you to think of or whisper aloud any names you honor in your hearts tonight.
This reading is called Ordinary Miracles by Kim Mason. I wish for you a season where there is room for the complexities that occur at this time. A season of complicated memories of happiness and pain, of comfort and loss, of disappointment and fulfillment. A season of joy which also has room for sadness, because gladness and sorrow take place together. I felt a little sorry for myself that Christmas. After opting not to travel to see family, I scheduled myself to work the Sunday after Christmas. To console myself, I made plans with a friend for a fancy New Year's outing. Then my friend canceled. The next day, my cousin called to say that my favorite aunt had died. He asked me to come to Tennessee to lead the memorial service. The winter holidays are beautiful and celebratory. They're also hard and complicated. The Christmas and Hanukkah stories contain grief and loss, struggle and pain. Winter solstice is the longest night in a cold and bare season. We often gloss over these parts to focus on the miracle. The baby was born. The oil lasted 8 nights. The sun returns. In recognizing the challenge of these stories, I've come to appreciate different miracles. The innkeeper made room for the struggling couple. When days turn short and the air cold, we find the warmth of community and connection. These ordinary miracles happen because we make them happen for ourselves and for each other. Officiating a memorial service isn't the same as a glitzy New Year's Eve party, yet there we were. The service concluded, we gathered in the hotel, my parents, brother, uncle, and cousins, and a few family friends. We ordered pizza and drinks and sat around the table telling the funny, touching, not for the workplace, stories that hadn't made it to the memorial service. As the clock neared midnight, I looked around the table in wonder. My aunt was always the one who brought the family together, and here we were, all gathered in grief and gladness, laughter and lament. One final complicated miracle. Spirit of love, source of hope, as the winter holidays come upon us, help us to find gratitude for the complexities of life. In the midst of loss and pain, may we find comfort and peace. In a season of joy, may we know the light and warmth of community that shines for us all. Blessed be and amen.
The responsive reading today is from Deborah Falk from the UUA in her litany of Comfort for a Blue Christmas. When I say the words, would you please follow me with, "In our hearts, all is not joyful."
What do you want to say to Americans who didn't?
All around us are bright lights and merry messages.
In our hearts, all is not joyful.
There is grief with the loss of relationships.
In our hearts, all is not joyful.
Those who love no longer with us because of death.
In our hearts, all is not joyful.
Those
Those we
we
have
love.
led who are estranged from us in our hearts. In our hearts, all is not joyful.
Those who love yet experience a diminishment of intimacy.
In our hearts, all is not joyful. There is grief with loss and change of relationship. In our hearts, all is not joyful.
Grief, bittersweet, for it is the consequence of the presence of love. This season brings forth many feelings.
In our hearts, all is not joyful.
All around us there are bright lights and merry messages. Yet in our hearts, all is not joyful. There may be pain in our bodies, physical pain as a natural outcome of aging, physical pain that presents itself in illness, pain in the body that forces us to change and impose limitations. Pain, bittersweet for physical experience, includes both pain and pleasure, and this season brings forth many feelings. We find comfort in naming these feelings. We find some peace in being together.
All around us are bright lights and merry messages, yet in our hearts all is not joyful. There may be anger and regret with the memories we hold, anger with past experiences of hurt or abuse, regret of our own actions that may have caused hurt to others, anger that life has not turned out as we imagined, regret for what we might have said or done, anger and regret, bittersweet in presenting the possibility for healing and forgiveness. This season brings forth many feelings. We find comfort in naming these feelings, and we find some peace in being together.
When we came through the cold. We came bearing gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh, and there were trumpets playing. There were angels looking down on a West Bank town, and he so loved the world. Wore we then our warmest capes? Wore we then our walking shoes? Opened wide the city gates, and let us through. A child is born, born in Bethlehem, born in a cattle pen. A child is born on the killing floor, still he no crying makes. Still as the air is he, lying so prayerfully there, waiting for the war. Welcome home, my child. Your home is a checkpoint now. Your home is a border town. Welcome to the brawl. Life ain't fair, my child. Put your hands in the air, my child. Slowly now, single file, up against the wall. Were we then, were we now our warmest coats? Wore we now our walking shoes? Open wide the gates of hope. Let us through. When we came through the cold. We came bearing gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh, and there were shepherds praying. There were lions laying down with the lambs in a West Bank town, and he so loved the world.
Donna Moriarty wrote this piece here. It starts with a quote from Megan Devine from It's Okay That You're Not Okay. And then she goes into a heartfelt story of her own. Just to let you have warning, she'll mention she was thinking about this at Easter time, but it fits being carried into this moment. For Megan Devine, it says, "There is pain in this world that you cannot be cheered out of. You don't need solutions. You don't need to move on from your grief. You need someone to see your grief, acknowledge it. Some things cannot be fixed, they can only be carried." And here are Donna's words. "Not long ago, I reached a turning point in a major writing project to which I'd given my heart and soul, a memoir about the stillbirth of my first child. Easter was approaching, and I caught myself thinking about the stories I'd grown up with. Good Friday, the day Jesus was crucified, Sunday with its empty tomb, and the 3 startled women who had come to ritually anoint the body. But what about Saturday? I imagined what that day was like for the women who were required by Jewish law to wait until the Sabbath passed before proceeding with their sorrowful task. I imagined what it must have been like to see their dream of a better world die along with their beloved teacher. When life deals a hard blow, a death or a diagnosis, a loss of job or home, it rocks our world and changes everything. After the shattering, all that remains is another ordinary day. We rise, wash, and put the kettle on. In the bleak season that followed the loss of my daughter, Jennifer, I didn't know if I'd have another child. Even on days when I wished I could stay under the covers or not wake up at all, I would drag myself out of bed. I'd choose a small task to accomplish or an obligation to meet, and I'd muster the energy to do it. I kept on that way until something shifted and hope and purpose returned. When surrounded by our dashed hopes, we might still be blessed with something we never expected: the grace to carry on. The ordinary day that dawns between desolation and the rebirth of hope is where we find our deepest faith, strongest reserves, and simple gratitude for our lives and the living. I would continue with this prayer. Spirit of the ordinary day, bless and guide us with your grace. Set before us the next task we are bound and privileged to do. As we meet the challenges of our daily lives, may we be reminded of our fragile humanity, our obligations to one another, and our oneness with the earth that keeps turning. We will have gather around the manger playing on piano. If you have a note that you have not yet handed forward to me during that music, I will be glad to receive a note. start with an opening by Gordon McKeeman. Let there be light. Let it shine in all the dark places. In moments of pain, in times of grief, in the darkness of hatred, violence, oppression, where there is discouragement and despair, wherever darkness can be put to flight, let there be light. Mike, if you will light. This candle is remembering the love in our lives, dearest ones. For this one, I know his spirit is alive. So thankful for my wonderful husband of 50 years who is a gift to the world. He is a cause for eternal joy. And I ask forgiveness for forgetting him at times. This candle is remembering 5 fraternity brothers and 2 mentors. Ask Mike Griffith here. Christy lights candle for in memory of my grandparents who were supportive, loving, and encouraging and made Christmas joyous and magical. Bob and Louise Houston and Martha and Walter Simonson. This candle is thinking of Lackey, his love, humor, civil rights service, and missing him. We light a candle in remembrance of Tim McGann, wonderful husband and father. He's greatly missed and so loved. And for me, light one for my sweet dog, Zoe. And remembering John, Marion, Bud, Trudy, Shannon, Daniel, and Robert. And we remember Tara's friend Julie, and Toshina, Uncle Randy, her brother Grant, and the displaced families of Helene in their tents in the cold. Let's light one more candle for all those who are missed, for the unnamed sorrows and griefs and memories. This is a time of prayer. I have prayers that have been written out by colleagues, including Vanessa Taitang, and we have a responsive one that gets mixed in here. And I will again include what was written on the notes as part of our prayers. Spirit of life, we are here with wounded hearts open, empty, lost. We turn to you by turning towards each other and feel your presence, and yet have so many questions, so much confusion, so many concerns and fears, and want to know why and how and when the hurt will stop. Spirit of life, reside in us each. Remind we are never alone. Filled with the hurt that reminds we too are still feeling, still aching for peace and love that we believe, that we know is possible. Hold us gently as we gather closer together, comforting each other, healing each other, inherently worthy with dignity, each of us. Hold us. Hold us still. Blessed be. Amen. Spirit of love and life, let us lift up into this time these candles and think about Julie, Toshina, Uncle Randy, Grant, those who are grieving their loss of home after Helene, those who are out in the cold. Let us remember John and Marion and Bud and Trudy and Shannon and Daniel and Robert. We remember Tim. We remember those pets who are so close to us, such as Zoe. We are thinking now in these prayers of Lackey. We are thinking of those who passed long away, grandparents such as Bob and Louise and Martha and Walter. We're thinking of those that we knew from years ago, days gone by, fraternity brothers, mentors, those who were a major part of our path together. We're thinking of those spouses of 50 years or however many years who were a gift to us and the world and joy. We forgive ourselves, as there are times when we don't always remember the people where we are living fully. But here is a time to grieve and remembering the love in our lives and the dearest ones, as we are dearest ones to each other. Thinking of all of this, I would like to offer this prayer with you. It's a responsive prayer, and so I'm asking that you respond with the words after each line that I read. You would say, if you wish, may we find peace. Spirit of life, goodness, and peace, may we find peace. When our world is worn with war, may we find peace. When our lives are ruled by fear, may we find peace. When loss leadens our days, may we find peace. When loneliness weighs heavy in our hearts, may we find peace. When despair takes hold of our souls, may we find peace. As we give help to those in need, may we find peace. As we go about our daily duties, may we find peace. As we make holiday preparations, may we find peace. As we gather in this place of grace, may we find peace. Spirit of life, goodness and peace, may we find peace. Let us listen to Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. With the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
May we just rest in the silence for a moment. For our closing words before I extinguish our chalice, we have a blessing for grief by Katie Savani Gelfand. May you be tender and gentle with yourself, and be cared for by those who will envelope you with compassion and presence. May you know that there is so much beauty in your grief, especially when it feels messy. May you know that the depth of your grief is a measure of the love of your heart and all it is capable of. May you cry an ocean of tears and never fear the tides of your grief. May you scream and rage and emote your pain in safe and supported spaces. And may you never be judged for the power of your expression. May you be comforted by a blanket woven of love when you feel the harsh and palpable illusion of aloneness. May you remember in moments of despair that all life comes from the womb of sacred darkness and that something new will be born from this void. May you allow yourself to change. May the pain of your loss awaken you to the pulse of your humanity. May you have faith in the crucible of your soul to transform this grief into numinous song. That song that brings you closer to your own divinity. May your experience of loss expand your capacity to extend compassion to others. May you eventually wear your scars as luminous gems on the unfurled wings of your heart. And may you always remember the preciousness of life. Amen. Blessed be.